Hello everyone, the Twig Connect. I'm here today with two very known faces for all the Twig members, Daniel from Australia and Peter from Dubai. We are here to talk a little bit about uh, how is this crazy thing happens with the ocean carriers. They're making more money than us. I'm pretty sure about that. And how this money they're making is affect us, the networking, but basically how it's affecting the forwarding community. To start this conversation, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much, Daniel. Peter, can you introduce a little bit about you, talk about where you're based, and a little bit about Fleetline?
Yeah. Let me brief you about our company, Fleetline Shipping Services. We are popularly known as FLS. It's an 18 years old company, started by me in Dubai. So of course we are headquarters in Dubai. We also have a branch in Iraq. Well, ours is an ISO and QHSC certified company. You know, obviously you can understand, we being in Dubai, UAE, so we have many oil and gas customers. So therefore we get to handle plenty of project cargo along with normal general cargo by sea and air. Because of the OEM business we control, we win frequently the best customer awards from a couple of shipping lines and airlines. So that's a brief introduction about Fleetline Shipping. Okay, now over to Daniel.
Tell us, Daniel. Daniel is, oh guys, it's very late for Daniel. Okay, so he's being very one of good guys accepting this invitation. Thanks so much, Daniel.
I'm still awake. I'm drinking a cup of tea though, Gilly, so I'm okay.
So that's okay.
It's 10 o'clock.
There's no whiskey in it either.
That's right. With a kangaroo meat, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Tell us, Daniel.
So I'm Daniel from D&D Worldwide Logistics in Australia. So we're based in Melbourne, Victoria. We've been in business for 10 years. Actually celebrated our 10 year this year in April. We're founding members of Twiggy. We're very proud of that. I remember going to the first event with Gilly and the crew. That was a good start to being members of Twiggy. We've built our base around Australia. We handle cargo into and out of Australia, all ports, all airports, and back and beyond, as we like to say. You know, even where the kangaroos go, Peter might like. We also handle into New Zealand and a little bit of the Pacific Islands as well. So probably our main specialist market is foodstuffs. And I've dealt with a lot of customers in that field for quite some time. I've enjoyed that the most, whilst handling, you know, all different types of cargo like we all do. Probably the big one we don't like to do is personal effects.
Of course, this is 100% comment for all the forgers. So 10 years, Daniel, remember in the beginning of the membership and etc. And
yep.
In 10 years, rates have been changed quite a bit, especially in the years. How that affect D&D? How do you see, was positive, not positive? How do you see that rate increasing, especially in ocean freight, affected you guys and how you deal with that?
It probably, it has changed a lot in the 10 years, even in the last 2-3 years with COVID. You know, the carriers have increased their rates dramatically. The percentages, you can't even track these days because it's just too much. We've probably grown over 75% in turnover because of that, whilst also increasing our margins to our customers for the amount of work required. Carriers have got lazier in the last few years, and they've pushed a bit more of a digital point of view, but without the customer service point of view. So that's where we've had to step up as a forwarder to our customers. Some customers have gone, some we've pushed out the door with that increase as well, because you know they're not willing to pay for your service. And I think it's probably made us appreciate a bit more about our customers and partners and who we want to deal with. Whilst, you know, getting rid of some we may not want to. more the clients than the partners. But yeah, there's always going to be complaints. We deal with complaints every day. That's our industry, I think.
Yeah.
If they can't afford to move freight, then they're going to be struggling to get and keep their business going. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of businesses go out as well as a result of all the increases. So it's been a struggle, but I like to try and think of everything on the positive. We make more money, and if we can't, then we need to do it better. So that's where I've tried to focus as our business with all the increases.
Perfect. Peter, you see the same way? How was for you guys? Was that good? Was that bad?
Over the last 2 years, we have seen the freight level has gone up sometimes 5 to 7 times, so as a result, as Daniel mentioned, our turnover has gone up one side, and also, financing part, we being freight forwarder, sometimes customers treat us as a bank. So obviously our financial outlay has gone up tremendously, but we are managing that. Now, there is a slight sign of freight level is easing down. Many countries across the world can't afford to buy anymore, meaning the import. So their central banks are restricting the outbound remittances. So the cargo is started coming down. So has the freight level down. Well, the carriers had their own bad times. So can't really blame them for increasing the level to this level. But one thing is for sure that our industry colleagues who runs the ships and the assets, so they also come to a realization sooner that it's not good for the whole industry or the society, because the inflation can go out of roof and things will go out of hand very soon. So there can be, I don't expect any regulatory authority come and put a foot stop for things like that. But because of the cargo, the lack of the cargo, so they will be forced to reduce. I'm sure no one would like to go the ships sailing with low cargo or empty ships. So things will by end of this year, I expect the freight level will come back. I don't expect that to be back to normal pre-pandemic level, but at least what has been gone up, at least by 50%, it should come down. Well, this is what I think so. Yeah.
But Peter, do I remember freights? That's not old times, but 7, 8 years. Especially, for example, one cargo from China to Brazil, we are talking about $200. Is for fleet line, is better $200 very cheap or very expensive, or you like the balance? Do you like, because I remember too cheap is also not good, right? We cannot make too much money. How do you see that, Peter?
No, we never wanted that kind of freight level. The one side the carriers are bleeding, or everybody have to make money for sure. Yes, that $200 can be $2,000, but it can't be $10,000, right?
Yeah.
So as you rightly said, a reasonable level of freight level is definitely what everybody will have a win-win situation. Yes.
Daniel, you think it's more advantage for very, very, very small forwarders when it's too cheap, or neither to those guys? It's not good for like nobody, only for importers. How do you see?
I probably think the cheap rates bring a lot more cheap freight forwarders around. There is a lot more forwarders in the industry when it is a cheap market, because anyone can just start up a freight forwarder office and work from their home. The cheap rates can't stay there. It's not sustainable for carriers, and the competitiveness will push out the smaller, medium-sized freight forwarders on the cheap market, because that's where the multinationals would just undersell us, and that's what they did most of the time. So yeah, we need to pay more, but we don't want to pay the $10,000 like Peter said. It needs to be realistic. All businesses won't be able to supply, and working in a big market like foodstuffs, going to our local supermarkets in Australia is seeing the increases of 75% on products. People won't be able to feed their family, and that's the stupidity of all this. The shipping lines are making billions and billions of dollars, but how are they feeding their families?
Yeah, No,
you know?
that's true, and it's affecting everyone here in Brazil. I'm 35, and I just remember people saying about how prices could change so fast, but I was just in the books, right? But not anymore.
Mm.
I see the difference every week when I go in the supermarket, and that's and now I have a baby, so I need to buy milk and all that stuff, and that's very expensive. Um,
It never stops though, Gilly, so watch out.
yeah, I need. You guys should told me that before, but
No, they're
now,
beautiful. Children are great. Don't get me wrong.
yeah. Daniel, you think the
Yeah,
carriers you're gonna keep putting the rates higher and higher because it's good to make money, right? And they are making a lot of money. Do you
Well,
think?
I think they'll try and keep them high, but probably like Peter said, I do see the market slowing in certain areas. On an Australian point of view, the cargo that would come in from China, that's been delayed at the moment because of all the issues with Shanghai.
Yeah.
And that's going to increase the demand, and the peak season will probably start a little bit earlier. But on the export market for Australia, they've been pushing the rates up for the last year and a half, and they want to keep doing that for the next quarter. I see it coming back down in probably the last quarter, and it all really depend on what happens with China.
Mhm.
That's my personal point of view. If China's busy, they drive the market up. If Europe's buying a lot from China, then the market will stay high. And that's where the rest of the world sort of has to deal with it. And, it can't continue really. I really hope it doesn't for a lot of our customers. And, I said before, it's good in a way, sometimes we make more money, but we won't see enough businesses. And, we joke about it, but we won't be able to feed our kids because there won't be food on the shelves.
Yeah. And people told me that 2021 was amazing for making money with the high freights because all the commodity was already, shippers and consignees, they already had bought the commodity. They had to move that. But 2022 is not showing that it's interesting anymore. It was good the first moment, we can make money, the cargo was there, but now people saying, now it's expensive. You see that, Peter, as well, like 2021, amazing, good money, we could make it. For 2022, we need to find a balance.
Yeah, of course, 2021 was indeed good, and 2022, so far this 5 months was definitely good as well. So we do not know what the second quarter going to be, but overall the prospects are good. So yeah, we'll have to wait and watch. One major concern for probably every freight forwarder may have is that the carriers are trying to get into our shoes. We're asking the carrier haulage, the customs clearance part, which traditionally we have been doing that. So that's a bit concern, not only for a small, medium-sized companies such as ours. So it's also the biggest freight forwarders also have a concern. So that's not a good sign. So I would hope that the carriers would realize that. So everybody have to make a living. So they are good in certain things. So they should continue with that. They should not get into our territory and, trying to invade or try to, steal away our business. So that's a sincere hope. So I don't know. How is that in Australia, Daniel? So these lines are very aggressive in asking all these services.
Yeah, they are. They're getting worse. You expect certain carriers like Maersk to always do it, but the likes of CMA, MSC, WACL, Costco Group now starting to push pretty heavily on it. The good thing is they're not very good at customs clearing, and we all know that when they handle the job, and the amount of stuff ups they do in transport. Unfortunately, I'm at the end of some of those when I get them to do it for us. But they don't have the networks, and that's the beauty of being in like Twig. We've got partners who do this every day, and Maersk and the likes. If they buy transport companies, they buy other freight forwarders. they need to be very selective in what they're doing because they're struggling on the service, and we need to capitalize on that. And for me, I think to work more as a group of partners where we can use our size as a network to be able to deal with them trying to steal the markets. That's probably my biggest push for everything that's happening. And I'd like, Gilly, you really to lead this, because, the bigger guys are always going to try and push us out. But if we act as a group and a network and all the members together worldwide, we are a bigger guy, or girl, or group, or family, and that's what we need to do to be able to compete to a shipping line. If they do offer customs clearance, we can still get the rates, we can still have the service, we've got the partnership, we've got the friendships, and that's where we'll be as a bigger group and family.
Talking about, I agree 100%, Daniel, and that's very good point. And as Peter said as well, they're gonna start pushing us. But you think, guys, in any moment in kind of networking, do you think carriers sit together and say, let's go on that way, or they don't have this communication? How do you see the guys? Because there are only few, if you think about carriers, only few carriers. Do you think they work like the same way?
Well, it started off by Maersk, and others are just copying them.
Yeah, they copy them. Yeah.
Yeah, but all these carriers have their back offices somewhere else, so they think that they can manage. But nothing wrong for trying for that. But when they realize that the more manpower require more time to be dedicated, so I think so they will back off by themselves. So it's not a major concern now, but it is indeed a concern for a lot of small freight forwarders, so they make their money by providing these services, so which they are good at that. So in my opinion, they should the shipping line should allow them to continue what those guys are doing. Yeah.
Who's more affected, big forwarders, small forwarders, with these movements from ocean carriers? In the beginning, the big forwarders, because I remember Maersk said, there's a new, I saw on LinkedIn, they said, we're not going to accept cargo from forwarders anymore. This is the rule here now. And I remember this was more focused on big guys, as Panalpina, Schenker, all those guys. Do you see that really happening in the coming years, and said not accepting cargo from forwarders anymore, or it's not possible?
Well, they are trying all their means. Maersk has a platform called Twill, TWILL. So that's an online platform wherein if you are a shipper or a consignee, you could register and you could get the space, which is slightly higher than the rates are higher than the spot rate. So they have a tracking system wherein forwarder can manipulate that system. So it's actually mean for the exporter and importer. Well, they are pushing for that currently with the kind of money which they are making. So they can afford to really have a try, as I said before. So probably they have the pockets are deep, so they can still afford to sail their ships half empty. So probably before they give up, they give a real try, I would say. Yeah.
Daniel?
Yeah, I agree. I think and it's going to be the ones like Maersk that push it more than any, and the others will follow. And generally the next four will follow and say, I'll see how Maersk goes. MSC will probably be the one that struggles the most in my mind. They're better off just ripping people off with ocean freight. But yeah, they're always going to try and steal a freight forwarder's customer, whether you're small, medium, or big. And they've done it for many years. I've had too many occasions. That's unfortunately why Maersk is at the bottom of the pile. I will not deal with them in certain circumstances because I do not trust them. They're offering these platforms like Twill, and they're pushing that hard, especially in Australia. yeah, we get shocked. We get customers calling and say, oh, they've
And how
approached
they
this.
how they push examples like calling the clients,
They-
offering better rates.
No. For example, they can put pressure on us by when we put up an online booking. So before we get the confirmation
Yeah.
of that
job.
booking, so they can tell us that, look, you engage us with your carrier's haulage, then we can just send you the confirmation. So kind of yeah, some sort of push is from there, you know. So yeah, so that's why it is working here. So how is that in Australia, Daniel?
It's the same. And, you know, by asking you to put up all information about your customer, that's a way of stealing our information. So they'll undercut and cut your grass, as we say in Australia. You know, and always go directly after the shippers and importers. You know, if you've given them that information, then they'll say, well, that's part of booking with us. That's not protected information. And all of a sudden our customer's getting a call, getting an email. This is what we can offer you. CMA's done the same thing, and they're doing the same thing, and they're doing that pretty heavy in Australia. You have to be able to be open with the customer, I think. I've got customers going, the nerve of these knobheads, as we call them in Australia. You know, why would I want to work with them? And I'm like, well, because we tried to book it with them. I said, well, this is your offer. So this is what can happen. And I said, you can, you know, at the end of the day, you can go with them if you want, or you be upfront and you're honest with them and say, these are your other options. And, you know, some circumstances it works, some it doesn't. That's a good and bad customer as well, in my mind. Some of those customers we said a pretty heavy goodbye to, because, you know, it comes down to rate and they have no idea what's going to happen, and they generally come crawling back because the Maersk will stuff them up, and they have, luckily for us.
And for me, what is crazy from an ocean carrier perspective is, okay, they can say that they want your clients, but to be honest, for one company handle so many small and medium-sized clients, worldwide speaking, it's not interesting. It's too expensive. Imagine going very small towns in Australia, in Brazil, or you know, small clients in Dubai that bring just half cargo in each 6 months. Talking about a perspective of sales actions, sales cost, relationship, it's not interesting. It's nice to have forwarders touching in, okay, Coca-Cola, if they want a Coca-Cola, Coke, or, you know, Microsoft, they can go hard and fight for those guys. That's okay. That's not for medium forwarders. It's better to have the carriers. But for, you know, one guy that have one container per year, it's really interesting for our ocean carrier gather client. And as you said, Daniel, they probably want that, but when they get the client, they say, oh, it's, you know, I'm not gonna treat well. And then the client will return to forwarders, because that's why forwarders were born back in times, because ocean carriers and airline companies, they were not interested in small, medium-sized clients, and that's how forwarders were born in the past. So I think it's not interesting and it's a strategy. I think it's just a guy, a CEO, to say, why you have forwarders, let's get all the business for us, and that's it. But in the daily routine, this is not possible, I think.
See, if you look at the airline industry, the airline guys are the one actually got a good hit, you know, during the pandemic time than the sea freight guys. So they just came out from that pandemic, and, you know, we have seen a surge in air cargo as well. So every freighter, every airline company are kind of full now, but still they are not adapting that policy of what our sea freight colleagues or the main lines are doing. So they are actually not even trying for that. So you know, they could actually take the same lead as, you know, what these lines are doing. So therefore we respect them. So as I said earlier, so everybody is good at what they are doing. It instead of getting into each other's territory, so they should actually stick with what they are doing. Yeah.
And also,
Yeah,
as
they
you
should
said-
definitely stick with what they're doing.
yes, and as you said before, Peter, I used to work in an ocean carrier. I used to work in CSAV. It's a carrier from Chile. I remember it was one of my first jobs, and I remember the final numbers every year was always in red. You know, ocean carriers were making money for years and years and years, and now they're making too much money. It's always important to find the balance. It's okay to make money, but I saw Maersk just bought Senator, the freight forwarder they just bought like last week. They're buying warehouses. They're doing a lot of very hard movements. And I don't think this is a way to think as a community. Because, for example, the big forwarders, they were there always helping the ocean carriers. And now they are not receiving any kind of, support. You think I think is the airline industry is easier because you have more people competing. So we have people with good mindset. But ocean carriers are not that much. Do you guys see new ocean carriers coming now that they are making money? Do you think new ocean carriers will born, or it's too expensive and people are not interested on that because it's too much money involved? How you see that?
No,
Maybe we
one
should
good
start
thing,
our own.
no, this, actually there's no ship to charter, for example. And
Exactly.
yeah, and if you wanted to buy a new build, all the shipyards around the world, their books are full for next 5, 6 or 10 years time. So
Yeah.
so all that is well planned, and therefore they are in a comfortable position.
Yeah.
So therefore, I don't think any major ones. So here and there, small ones comes up in NVOCC form or some other form. So, it's kind of a maybe, one form or other thing, always something will come, but not the extent of what our big boys are today.
Yeah. True.
So they are in comfortable position. So we wish them best, let them make money. There is absolutely no problems for that. Yeah. But only thing, please don't come into ask the petty things what we are doing into customs clearance or transportation. That's all. That's all.
So we need that stuff.
Peter, you said before one interesting thing. You said that there should not make any kind of authorities or things blocking them to work. It should be an open market. They should do whatever they want. But when I think about that, I don't think anyone is fighting for the community. When I look in Brazil, okay, there's no association of forwarders in Brazil. I know there's one association in Dubai, in United Arab Emirates. I don't know if there's one association in Australia, but in Brazil we don't. And when we talk on a worldwide basis, no one is fighting for the forwarding community. We can say Fiara, they're not. We can say the biggest network in the world, they are not. There's no one fighting for the rights. It's not fighting. If there's a meeting now, there's no one to sit in the table to say, I represent the forwarders, right? There's one guy representing Maersk, there's one guy representing the airline companies, one guy representing the ports, one guy representing the shippers, but no one is sitting on the table to say, I'm here for the interests of the forwarding community. You guys think that's important, and who should take that position? I don't think it's a nice job. A lot of problems probably being.
You want a new job, Gilly?
Well, I lead a small community of forwarders here. What I love.
Yeah.
In my research, if I'm not wrong, there's around 700,000 to 1 million independent freight forwarders worldwide.
Exactly.
I represent 300. What happens with that? So you think that's important?
Yeah.
Who should be that guy, or no? That's never going to happen.
I don't think it will happen because we're all a bunch of stubborn men, women. We always think we're right. We all compete against each other. It's very rare we work together. And
in the
that's the
same
problem.
street, right? In the same street,
Yeah.
you're fighting with the other.
Exactly. We're all around the same area. Trying, that's my customer. Don't touch him. So who's going to represent us? It can't be a freight forwarder.
Yeah.
In Australia, we just had a change of government, and we've got a new prime minister. And thank God, I guess, or help the Lord help us all. And he's come out and said, they need to change the industry in logistics, and they need to drive change and push on the prices that the end consumer has to pay. A government has to be the one that pushes it. Biden has stood out and said, we're going to make a change in America. But what's actually happened from that? Nothing. It's all a bunch of political rubbish. They talk and do nothing. The shipping line's not going to listen. They're going to make their money. And as soon as one of them pushes up their price, they all go to that level. So as long as one of them's getting away with it, then they're all continued to do it. How to change it? We have to stop booking it. That's probably the way it's going to change. But whilst there's such a demand and there's already a backlog, it's not going to happen, because we all need to get the space. So they'll pay the price. So, for me, it's a really hard change, Gilly. It would be the government, but they have to actually do something that they actually say they're going to do. And I don't know many governments around the world that actually do that.
And the problem is too many governments we need involved.
Yeah.
Because need the American doing that, China, Australia, especially the big ones. But I was talking these days about that. Who could represent the forgers? And I don't see that happening in the beginning. For example, I like to be a neutral part, right? I can have forgers friends in the same city, but sometimes, especially in Brazil, that's happening. Okay, when I talk with 4 friends from 4 different forgers, they don't talk with each other in the same small town. I don't know, just to sit and say, how can we make that better? How can we create some, and it's not about the business, but some kind of synergy. There's not synergy at all. And I see this happening all the time. I was in Intermodal, and people from Chile, they were complaining about the same stuff. They were saying, oh, why we compete so much? We can compete for the cargo, but we should fight for together for some rules, especially in our country. That's very complex. Peter, how do you see that? You think it's also complex? Who can sit in a table, represent the forgers, or you don't see that happening?
Unfortunately, there is no organization or anything like that who can, take care of freight forwarders' interest or anything like that. So I don't know who is going to be that, or maybe World Chamber of Commerce, or somebody have to come up and maybe do something. So we have seen our industry organizations such as Fiat, IATA, not doing anything at all. So we don't have any hope. So then the private network group. So I don't know, you guys all get together and maybe form something, maybe a unified voice, so which may be heard by the shipping lines. So that could be one solution. I don't see any other way forward.
Maybe in the future.
Doesn't sound very good, does it?
Maybe in the future, you guys gonna see me sitting with Biden and with the CEO of Maersk and say, "I'm here." Because I had a conversation.
You have to make it so quickly, otherwise you'll have only 3 more years to go, man.
No,
Huh?
yeah, that's true. No, with another president. So I'm gonna be there and say, I'm here because of Daniel and Peter. We said that no one is representing the flag of the forwarding community. That's why I'm here.
Yeah,
who knows? But I think it's important in not, as Peter said, to block the rates or to say to carriers not make money. It's not about that. It's about him being represented, Peter, in Dubai is the same, or there's a nice community of forwarders, they help each other, or no, in the end of the day, everyone.
We have an association. We have an association, but there is no, I mean, I haven't seen them talking to the shipping lines or to mitigate the issue of price going up or space issue or anything like that. These are all carriers' individual decisions. So I haven't seen anything that sort. So every country have that kind of an association. So
Not in Brazil, not in Brazil.
not really.
And that's a problem. For example, Brazil, if you ask how many forges exist, you don't know because there's no number when you try to open a company in Brazil. You can put a number to identify if you are a bakery, if you are supermarket, or if you are forwarder. There's no number for forwarders, so you cannot identify official numbers how many forwarders exist in Brazil. And that's also a problem in our business.
Wow.
You just need a computer and a phone, and I can open a forwarder today, and let's go forwarders and forwarders and forwarders, and in the end of the day, they are fighting for each other, and that's bad for the community. I'm happy at least we do have a small group where we know each other, we know the faces, we know people. That's something I'm always think about that. We can help each other, as Daniel said before, and that's very interesting in terms of network. So today we have talked about the carriers. We don't see new carriers coming. The freights must go down, not as before, but at least a good price for forwarders make money, but also we still have not high prices and markets and etc. because we need survive in the end of the day. We need eat, as Daniel said. In terms of the forgers, they provide a better service than carriers. That's a fact. I'm not seeing carriers touching such a high quality of service because they don't want it. They don't want it. They don't even treat well the forgers in a call. They don't have customer service and etc. We need ocean carriers. It's okay to make money, but as Peter said, ocean carriers there, forgers here. That's a community that how should work. Peter, Daniel, thank you so much for your time, for your attention. I think we had good points today. For everyone watching us, Daniel from D&D and Peter from Fleetline gonna be in the one-on-one meetings. You can also find them in the platform. If you have business to Dubai or Australia, United Arab Emirates and Australia, remember those guys. Peter, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, man, thank you. It's wonderful meeting you, talking to you. Daniel, thank you, man. Now it's time for you to sleep, huh? Have a whiskey.
I might actually put whiskey in it this time.
I know you're hiding.
It does have tea in it.
I have a tip for you guys. If you go in the next face-to-face conference and you try to follow Australian guy drinking, don't do that. Okay, that's a bad. That's totally.
No, let's just make this straight for all the members out there. I'm not a pisshead. Everyone thinks I am.
No, because Australian guys, they drink more than us, and
I could just drink more than all of you.
That's a fact. Guys, thank you so much. It was lovely to deal with you. Both companies
very nice to see
in the Twig Connect, but they also gonna be together with us in the next conference. Thank you, Twig.
Yes.
Still connected in the Twig Connect. See the next lectures and talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Joey.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.